Hey horror fans, happy October once again. On this video, we're going to be talking about a recent streaming movie which is called No One Will Save You. It stars, I'm never sure if it's Caitlin Denver or Danver, one of the two, but
Yeah.
she's the lead actress out of Booksmart and Unbelievable and a
Mm.
few different things. She's living alone in this house. There's a bit of a backstory which is revealed more of about her past as the movie goes on. But as things go on, we discover like a next. I don't think it's really a spoil to mention the extraterrestrial plot because it's pretty
Yeah.
much the setup in the film. But the house is visited by an extraterrestrial, and it's about her reacting to that and the fallout from that and how that brings stuff to the surface. The director has a little bit of a cred as well, and this is his first. I think he might have wrote that Spontaneous, that movie from a few years ago, which
Oh, okay.
I've still not seen, but I know it got some positive buzz from some horror fans. But
Mm.
this, I think, was his first film as a director, and it's definitely a little bit of a mix of sci-fi and horror. So, Rachel, what did you think of this one?
So I went into this completely blind. I didn't watch any trailers. I didn't really
Mm,
look into it. I stumbled across that it was science fiction from someone else's review, like popped up on YouTube, and I was like, okay, so it's science fiction. But look, I have to say, this is not my type of film, so I didn't really enjoy it that much. But I could appreciate parts of the film and how they were done. First of all, I think that Caitlin Dever. I haven't actually seen her in anything. I know of her, but I haven't really seen her. But I
mm,
thought she was really good, especially considering it's not much of a spoiler to say this, but the movie doesn't have a lot of dialogue. In fact, I think it only has like a total of like 15 spoken words or something like that. So the fact that she is mostly by herself in this movie, I mean, hence the title, No One Will Save You. And because we find out that she is an outcast in town, which we find out why she's an outcast later on in the film. So I thought that the fact that she had to carry this film with almost no dialogue and with the camera primarily focusing on her, I thought she actually did a really good job. I thought she really got like the emotions well, like you could really feel her panic, you could feel her fear, you could feel her emotions when we got the backstory to, what had happened with her. I thought that was done really well. I also thought that the opening scene and establishing like her house and her aesthetic, like you could tell that she's in a very dark place, this girl. There are hints. She keeps writing letters to someone called Maud saying that she's sorry. We don't quite know who Maud is.
yeah,
We find out that her mum has died recently. But I really liked that, like you see in her house, everything is cheery and bright and colorful. And I remember thinking, oh, okay. So she maintains this very happy, cheerful facade to mask the fact that she does live in so much inner darkness. And I thought that was a fun choice. So I thought aesthetically this film looked really good. I also thought some of the scenes between her and the aliens were filmed quite well. Some of the fight scenes. But like I said, I'm not a science fiction person for one. It's not, and I've said this before on this channel and other reviews that we've done, it's not really my genre. It's not a genre I've ever really connected to. And so like knowing that it was science fiction, that turned me off a bit. I also did feel like the film did drag a little, and there were some bits that were really weird and random where I was like, I wasn't quite sure what was happening. Maybe a rewatch would improve for me, but like there were some scenes like when she was going through town, or like when the aliens start to take over and some people are getting like pod personed. And then there was this whole thing later on with a doppelganger that we're going to have to talk about because I didn't quite understand
yeah.
that. And then, yeah, and then the reveal of what had actually happened in her past was very sad. And I thought that, again, that was played quite well. But overall, I found myself getting a bit bored during this movie, tuning out a little bit and finding some of the stuff a little bit over the top. But like I said, I think the main actress was really good. And I think she elevated the film by the fact that her performance was so strong. But it didn't really mesh well with me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. What about you? How did you go when you watched this?
Yeah, like I don't really know how to feel about this movie. I was similar to you. I didn't really know much about it going in.
Mm,
I think when I saw the premise, and I do like the actress, I've seen her in a few different things now, so there was definitely enough to it where I thought, yeah, this could potentially be a bit of a gem. And like, I definitely don't have the same hang ups over sci-fi as you. You know, it
mm,
probably is one of my favorite genres. But yeah, this was just a frustrating movie where it definitely started off promisingly, and based on the early stuff, I thought this is going to be a really good movie.
mm,
Like, I think it's a well directed movie, and I think it was quite a creepy movie when it needed to be. And you've definitely got that lead performance carrying a lot of it,
mm.
but as it just went on, it just became very messy, and
Yeah,
like it couldn't really make up its mind what it wanted to be. Like
yeah,
it just seemed to be throwing too many things into the mix, and it never really resolved that, because
mm,
a lot of the stuff with the alien is like it appeared very much like like a Spielberg style alien,
yeah,
and
mm,
so I thought for a while we were going down that path where maybe she was going to befriend the alien at some point, like
yeah,
maybe they would learn to like get on, and it would be that sort of a movie. But then it never really was that, and it
mm,
was yeah, I think it was just too messy and inconsistent in something like the X Files, where maybe scenes where you see the alien in the X Files are probably they fall a little bit flat, those scenes, because
yes,
so much of it is about the mystery and the drama
yes,
with the
yes,
characters. So it just feels a little bit gimmicky, where you just see the stereotypical like little green
yeah,
man in a way. And I think just certain scenes, it just became a really silly, over the top film.
mm,
And if it was set up as that kind of film, I probably wouldn't have a problem. But it wasn't really. It was set up as a more serious film.
yeah,
And it probably might have just been an accident that scenes like that ended up becoming a bit silly. But the thing is, they did end up feeling a little bit too cheesy at times,
yeah,
scenes like that, because it felt to me like they were trying too desperately to make the alien aggressive as well, in quite
yes,
a unnatural sort of a way. I definitely have some plot questions, um, where it could have been a bit more clearer on
hmm,
what it was doing, like what actually happened, basically, like,
yeah,
because there's definitely room for like keeping things up in the air, and not explaining everything, but like, yeah, I think just because of how messy it became, it was more that than
mm,
at times they didn't explain enough, and it just never felt quite satisfying. So
yeah,
it turned into a frustrating movie where, for a good 10, 15 minutes, I thought, this is going to be my sort of movie. I'm really going to
mm,
love this. And gradually it just dipped, and I think ended up being a bit of a mediocre movie. Like
yeah.
definitely worth watching. Like there's definitely stuff in it which makes me glad I watched it. But yeah, frustrating is probably a good word.
Okay, it's okay to not answer some questions. In fact, sometimes it's better when you don't have answers because then that ups the mystery. But this film gave you like no answers. So it was like, well, we need something here, you know. We need like they never really explain like where are the aliens from? What are they doing here? What is their purpose? And then when we talk about the ending, we can really talk about like what happened there. I also agree that we should not have seen them like that because I actually made a note here. I was like, I think the biggest one of the biggest issues is that we saw the alien. Less is always more, especially in this. I think it would have worked better if the alien had been hinted at and then we'd seen it in the third act. But you see it pretty much in the first act. Like you said, it pretty much just looks like your stereotypical like green alien from outer space. So it kind of removes that scare factor of what is in my house, what is coming for me. And I feel like that would have worked better than just seeing the alien right out the gate. And I agree with you that sometimes they were like really aggressive, and it's like, well, what are you trying to do here? What's your point? Are you taking over people? Are you harvesting
Yeah.
brains? Is this an alien invasion? Are we taking over Earth? They never really explained that. And they're very focused on this one character. Like, we do see them kind of spread out into the town, but like, why this character? Like, there was just a lot that was, yeah, very, like you said, frustrating, left up in the air. You ended the movie with like a lot of questions that were like, what just happened? And not in that, like, yeah, you can definitely have movies that are more mysterious and don't give you all the answers, but you still at least have a general idea of what's happening. I had no sense of like what the aliens' purpose was, why they were coming to Earth, what their deal was. And you need a little bit of that, you know, you need a bit of an explanation. And this movie didn't really give us. I think on the plus column, this is a very pretty movie to look at. I think, like I said, I think the filming was done really well. There are some really nice shots, and they have some really good cinematography, but the story was definitely wanting. And I feel like with the story, they went for less is more, but we definitely needed more to go on. And even, you know, when we found out like why she's hated by the town, like I feel like they could have gone a little bit more into that. And it's like they scratched the surface and didn't go any deeper, and it just left you feeling quite unsatisfied as a viewer. At least that's how I felt when I got to the end of the movie. I felt unsatisfied and like really frustrated because I didn't know what was going on. And yeah.
Yeah, because it felt a bit like there wasn't enough of a reason to link these two plots in a way. And
Yes.
I definitely wasn't really sure if the aliens were meant to just be there to bring out this stuff, like whether they were intentionally showing her the error of her ways, and like it became this thing of she got a second chance in life almost, because that's part of the thing with the doppelganger. And
Okay, yeah. See, that part really confused me.
no, it confused me as well, but this is what I'm saying. I wasn't sure, because when I was watching the movie and trying to figure out what happened exactly, I wasn't sure if the other girl was meant to be her sister, like the girl who died.
Okay.
And so at one point it crossed my mind that could be why they're identical. So maybe the other person is meant to be. But then I think later on you find out that it's just a friend,
yeah, it's just her best friend.
It's like
Yeah.
a fight, and she like ends up killing her. You know, things get out of hand, and so I wasn't sure if like this other person who looked like her was just. It could have been just a metaphor for like she's confronting herself.
Yeah, I think that you're probably right, that's probably what they were aiming for, but it didn't come across that way to me, at least not at first. It just was very confusing for me. For her to suddenly have this doppelganger.
They didn't make it clear enough, really. It was just a mess of ideas, and as it went on, it got more and more messy. And because, so I mean, just to understand this, the basis of it, she's been living this life for years, and I don't know, like for a while, I thought maybe she'd been living her friend's life, and that was the whole thing. But I think she'd just been living in the house for years afterwards, and she'd never revealed to the girl's parents that she'd killed her.
No, I think they knew. I think because remember there's that scene where she's in the police station and like the mother spits in her face. So I think it was known that she killed her friend, and I think that's why she's ostracized by the town.
Okay.
At least that was my reading of it anyway.
Because that scene's in the present, I don't know, it just plays like there's been this reveal and the parents have only just found out, because I sort of took it as like the girl went missing, and probably all those years ago, eventually they just assumed the worst without actually knowing. But
Okay, well, I mean, you could be right. That could be an interpretation. This movie is so open that you don't know. But no, my impression was that, yeah, this incident happened when they were children. She accidentally killed her best friend. The parents obviously found out. The town found out. And instead of understanding that this was a child who got out of control, they decided to shun her and turn her into the town pariah, despite the fact that she was so young and it was kind of an accident. So that was my
yeah,
reading of it anyway. But again, they didn't really go into it enough. I don't feel like it was like it was like an incident that happened. We got to see it. We got to see some of the fallout, but I don't know. It again just feels like we scratched the surface and didn't go any deeper with that. And I'm not sure what they could have done, but it just didn't feel, again, it didn't feel complete or satisfying to me, that angle. Writing letters to alleviate her own guilt, you know, kind of the same way you'd go to talk to someone at their graveside or something. I think that's what that was, you know, because she has no contact with anyone. So this would be her way of having some sort of contact with someone. And she obviously still has a lot of guilt over her friend's death. So I think this is more her, yeah, writing to her friend to alleviate her own guilt, to kind of get her own feelings out. But it's just, yeah, similar to talking to someone's, you know, headstone or something like that.
Okay.
But see, again, this is the issue. The fact that this movie has raised so many questions. Like we're instead of, it almost feels like we're actually sitting here trying to figure the movie out rather than like giving a review, because we just couldn't like understand exactly what it was trying to get across. And I think that is one of its issues. It's very vague and, like you said, very messy. And there's like all these weird scenes towards the end where it's like, what's happening? Is she being abducted? Is she being taken over? Okay, no, she's fine now. No, okay, no, but the alien's back there, you know, and it was just like very all over the place and just didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I can only assume it's one of those films where so much of it is like metaphors. But once again, it's very murky with the aliens, like you said, because are they abducting her just as a way to show her the error of her ways? Because then it's just like things appear to her like flashbacks, and do they give them? Are they giving her a second chance at the end of the movie? Because the ending's quite ambiguous. I don't mind the ending too much, but you could definitely read the ending as a more negative ending. You could read it than this happy life that she suddenly appears to be leading is all in her head, and that she was really abducted. So it's almost like this is the ideal life in her head, but it didn't really play out like that. Or you could read it as she got a second chance, like she has to sort of learn from the past and she's got a second chance at life. You could read it as that, maybe. But
well, from what I've read, it sounds like the ending is supposed to be showing, and again, I could be wrong, but this is according to IMDb and TV tropes. The interpretation is that the aliens went to take the whole town, but then they looked into this girl's past and saw that she's isolated. So now at the end of the movie, she's actually the only free person living in town. All the others are under the alien control, but to her, this is a preferable alternate because now they're actually interacting with her, you know, and we see her dancing with them and we see her happy in the town. So it's kind of one of those kind of downer endings of like, yeah, the whole town is under control, but at least she's happy. But then they don't really explain like why this girl, was it because the aliens saw her past and decided that she'd been through enough? Were they suddenly on her side? Or like you said, is this maybe something that's all in her head and she's actually been abducted? Like, again, like you, I don't mind an ambiguous ending, but it shouldn't be so ambiguous that you don't quite know what's going on, full stop, you know? And again, it's just one of those really odd things in the film that leaves you with more questions than answers. And you just kind of sit there going, what is happening? Like, what is actually going on here? I didn't think it was a very well concluded film. And like I said, towards the end, it had just gotten so messy by that point that I was just kind of tuning out and not really being able to figure out what was going on. Just very odd.
yeah, because there is a way to write this stuff where it can feel like a riddle, but it's a riddle that you're compelled to follow and get answers. And
yeah,
I mean, you can do that thing which like someone like David Lynch does, where the questions are so intriguing you want to watch on and get answers. And some things will be answered and some won't, but like he's always posing questions in a way where you want answers, and it just keeps you hooked. And or like just certain TV shows like Lost, like that show was very good at answering questions with new questions and
Yes,
sort of keeping
yes.
you interested in that way. But unfortunately, that's not what this film really is. Like, I think it is too vague, and there's just a sense that it being so indecisive is more a result of messy writing than like. And maybe because it does feel quite an arty movie at times, so maybe it's just this idea of they were trying to be a little bit too clever. And it could just be then things got lost in the edit. A very good lead performance.
Yes.
Like it's a well directed movie generally, but it just ends up becoming such a mess of ideas and so messy. And yeah, like it didn't really define itself very well. Stuff happened so fast, you sort of assumed there's going to be this other side to the movie. Used about why she went back to the house. I can only assume it's because she couldn't leave town, because that's
because she tried. Because remember, she gets on the bus, but then everyone on the bus is like possessed and like trying to attack her. So yeah, I'm guessing she just went back because unfortunately, sometimes when we're in bad places, we just try to go back to the safety of our own house. So yeah, that's probably why. But again, see, like it's not really giving you the option to really be able to see where her motivations are coming from and stuff like that. Again, more questions. So yeah, just a lot of stuff left up in the air.
What would you rate this one?
But I can't rate this very high. I'm going to give it some points because I do think it was visually quite a decent film. And like we keep saying, the central performance was really, really good. But I can't go higher than a 5. I think I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10. And even that feels a bit generous. But I do think that that central performance was really, really good. So I think that Caitlin, she really elevated it. But yeah, I'm going to go with 5 out of 10, right down the middle. What about you?
Well, yeah, you're close to where I am. Like, I'm gonna go 5.5. Yeah, there's enough in it where I'm not gonna go super low, but it definitely started out as a really solid movie, and I was intrigued and I was into it, and it definitely felt like it was gonna be a higher score at that point, and then it did sort of nosedive. Like it was a disappointment by the end, but yeah, 5.5. That feels about right to me. Quite a short movie as well, so
that's true. That was
I
good.
might rewatch it at some point, see if it, because I think it's definitely dividing people online. Like, there's definitely people who do go to bat for it, but okay, that's no one
will save you.
Yeah. So if you've seen the movie, let us know your thoughts. It's streaming on Hulu, I think, on Disney Plus. That's where you can find it. So if you have seen it, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Also tell us what you've been watching this horror season, and look for more horror reviews coming up. We do like franchises. That's something we do. So something we've started recently is the Frankenstein series of movies. So we've gone back to the very first one from the 30s, the Boris Karloff original. So we did the first Frankenstein. You can check that out on the channel now. But if you want to plug your channel, Rachel.
Guys, you can follow me, Rachel McDonald, video essays on TV show and movies. I do have some horror content on there. And my Tumblr and my Twitter are both linked in my YouTube. So Keith usually puts a link in the description, and come and follow me everywhere.
Okay, thanks guys. Keep watching horror movies, and we'll see you again soon.